Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle Live. Joining us this season, not only will be this evening, not only will be Mark Stallard, but the one, the only, a cameo performance from Martin Allen. He will be joining us to have a chat about the forthcoming live event at the Big Shed Trent Navigation. And he will also be pulling out and announcing the winner of our competition to meet him live and in person before the show for all those of you who have already bought tickets for the event. That Martin will be coming up about 7:30. Now then, lies, damn lies and statistics is an oft quoted phrase. We're going to kick off the show tonight by playing a little game. Two teams. Team A only lost 3 games in the first 17 of the season. Joint best in the division. 4th in the league table, lost only once away from home, missing last season's player of the division and other key creative players. Defensive record has been transformed from being one of the worst to one of the best in the division. And there's Team B. They've scored only 2 goals in their last 5 home league games. They're 2 points worse off than they were at the identical stage to last season. The manager has lost more games than he has won since he's arrived at the club. They've only won 7 out of 17 this season, and in games against the top 12 so far, they've only beaten 2. Now then, I'm sure you've all worked out the team is one and the same. It's Notts County. And there lies a lesson of how you can manipulate statistics to suit whatever side of the fence you happen to be sitting on. And I know that as a result of recent results, there's people over here and there's people over here. As always on this show, we want rational, calm debate, putting your points of view, not accusing other people and all the rest of it. So that's one of the main topics we'll be discussing tonight. The magic of the FA Cup. Does it still excite you? Who's off to Peterborough on Saturday? Second time this season for plenty of us after that double-header pre-season game at London Road on a pretty hot August Saturday afternoon, if I remember correctly. Before we go to the various message boards to see what everyone's got to say, Stell, so on this debate, because it seems to be polarising opinion again, where do you sit 17 games into the season?
Well, rather boringly, I'd probably be somewhere in the middle. You know, I try not to. You know, I know so much of the modern world is to find an extreme reaction to everything. So everything's either brilliant or it's terrible. And I try and, you know, rationalize and you know, try and find, you know, is that right? What is right? And I think for me, we're doing quite well. I think that is the bottom line. We're doing quite well. What I would say, and any criticism I think I'm going to give tonight, I'm going to state right at the start the minor criticisms. You know, they are minor criticisms. We are not sat bottom half of a table, you know, struggling. We are, you know, we're not doom and gloom. So any criticism I do give, I mean it in a minor way. It's not a massive problem or anything like that. I think we are doing quite well considering them players that we're missing. You know, we know Jody, we know Dan Crowley, the 2 main ones, but then you throw in Curtis Edwards, Connor Grant, Scott Robertson as well in midfield. The fact that Didsy's been sort of in and out. Kedwin Scott's not been available for a period of time. Alessandro Jatta went away and missed a game on international duty. We've been up against it in terms of team selection and having our best players. And I think it started to show. I mean, I made note of it on the radio on Saturday after the game. That's the last 8 league games. We've scored 6 goals. We've only conceded 6 as well. You know, we've won 2, we've lost 2, we've drawn 4. So very, very middling, not disastrous, but also not superb. And I just think that it is them injuries and them players that are missing just catching up with us a fraction. You know, we are not quite as ruthless going forwards, we're not quite as clinical in the final third, and we've not had quite the same quality in the final third, I think, over them games than we would have if you have your more creative players. But that is almost a common sense thing to say. So it's stating the obvious a little bit, but I think it is worth stating for anybody who's, going off either end of whichever spectrum which end of the spectrum you think we might be at. I think we're doing okay. We could be doing better, but given the injuries, given the players missing, it's not disastrous at all. We're fourth in the table. Okay, a few teams have got games in hand and what have you, but as long as we are there and thereabouts when we get these players fit and available, then I think we're going to be right back up in the mix. I've said it before. You take your two most creative players out of any team in this division or any division, and see how it affects a team. And that's the nature of the game. We did enough to win the game Saturday. We wouldn't have scored in a month of Sundays, would we, at the weekend? And so you're left a bit frustrated. But did we really create enough from open play? Maybe not.
Okay, it's a balanced, considered response from Stell, and it's balance and consideration that we want tonight. I know the various social media numpties have been out in force, as you say, polarising one extreme to another. Let's get the thoughts of our flock. Wayne Wilkins, who I think has set a new world record for first message to be left ahead of a show. He left this at 11:25 this morning from Barcelona. That's Wayne Wilkins. Might just be the first to comment today. You don't say, Wayne. Disappointing result Saturday. Nothing fell our way, but there's no need for panic. Everyone should calm down. Now I'm off for some paella. See you later. Well, I hope you've had your paella, Wayne, and I hope you've now, having had a bit of sustenance, have sat down, rejoined, and are listening to some various pearls of wisdom from Mr. Stallard. Early observations from the aforementioned flock. Greetings, everyone, from David Parkin. Had to wear a woolly hat to keep my head warm on Saturday. I pulled all of my hair out listening to the match. How we didn't score beggars belief. Pie life evening all. Disappointing result on Saturday. The injuries haven't helped, but we're still in a playoff spot. Let's keep the faith. We will be a much stronger side come January. Kay says, evening all from a very hot and sunny Barbados. You must have some money, Kay. I bet you in that posh bit, is it Sandy Lane, where Shearer and all that mob go to? Bet you got a penthouse there, haven't you? Paul Huskerson, evening. Stephen Newton says the same. David Dawes, we really need to score soon, even if it's off someone's backside or knee. Evening from Ian Haywood and from Royston. Lack of goals is going to kill us this season. Evening from Jurgen, AD Clark. Evening, can't make the live event. Will it be recorded? Yes, AD, but with a caveat. The live, shall we say, uncensored event will probably run for about 2.5 hours. The edited, family-friendly, PG-rated, edited highlight package will probably be about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, so try and get down if you want to hear most of it. Ian Haywood, I've said that in an earlier podcast about lack of goals. Goal difference could play an important factor in the race for promotion. Evening from Kenneth Pointer. Can't have been the only one bored last Saturday. I think there's a lot of things, Kenneth. I don't think it was boring. I mean, there was plenty. Well, there was goalmouth activity. I think, to an extent, well, Newport may not have been that inspiring. I think you have to praise them. The number of times, Stell, bodies were on the line. It's not just luck. I remember Alex Ferguson said this of a Leicester City team when Martin took them there, and it was like so many diving tackles, lunges, balls, and Fergie said some people will say that's luck because I think Leicester got a draw. He said, but I know it's not. He said, you were prepared, do or die, what it took in that box, and I did detect quite a bit of that, albeit with luck, which you need from Newport on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the other side of the coin. We talk about goal scorers and people who score from in the 6-yard box, and they're always getting tap-ins. How lucky is that? They say, no, it's not lucky. Once might be lucky, but if you repeatedly do something, then it's not luck. It's learning your craft. Well, this is the other side of the coin. I thought they were brilliant, Newport, defensively, last-ditch defensively. I thought they were terrible trying to play out from the back. And I think most of our chances came from winning the ball, pressing high up and winning the ball off them. But in terms of, like you said, throwing bodies in the way, because again, you can talk about passive defending, which is, if somebody's having a shot, you sort of just stand, or the best defenders try and get as close as possible and will throw themselves in the way when they know you're pulling the trigger. So it's look, there's always an element of luck in things like that, but not over a full game when they're making block after block. There were that many goalmouth scrambles, that never really, were able to take advantage of, and it left us with a frustrating day. But no, it's not luck. Opponents, and this is something we've always got to pay respect to, is the opposition are allowed to play well, no matter where they are in the league table. They're allowed to play well and defend well and throw, but make it difficult for you. It's a respect thing, and that's part of the challenge of football. If you're a fancy team, a strong team, as Notts are in this division, you've got to be prepared that teams will want to make it hard for you, and that's exactly what Newport did, and they got their rewards, by hook or by crook. But it was one of them days. I think we could have played for another hour. They could have gone in. I still don't think we'd have scored. It was just felt like one of them days.
And it was good to see. I'm not sure whether you would have been a teammate, colleague of his in the mid-noughties, David Pipe. That's his shirt.
Yeah.
They're one of his match ones, yellow shirt. Great lad, Pipe. I like Pipe. I did some work with him. His physique, by the way, for a professional footballer is unbelievable. I mean, were you his body double in the dressing room, Stel?
Yeah, absolutely. I had double his body back then. But it's when I came back on loan. So I had a few months on loan with while Pipey was there, and he is a good lad, a nice lad. But I don't think he's done anything other than hit the gym since then. He's absolutely stacked. Yeah. So he's bulked himself up. I've bulked myself up, just in different area.
If you didn't notice him, he was the guy in the dugout with the very wide top half of the body with like a bobble hat on. He's gone back there, I think, as a fitness and conditioning coach. And hey, I doubt if you're a player, you can get away with much with him, can you?
Well, that's it. You've got to take your job seriously if you're going to do that. I mean, I think he's kit man, isn't he, at Newport? But
he probably was about 6 backroom jobs at Newport, to be fair.
I was going to, absolutely. So I was going to say, if Pipey's going to tell you to do something, it'd be a brave man to argue with him, wouldn't it? There.
Yeah, it was good to see him. He's a good lad. Some more from the message boards. Ian Cooksy's not a happy bunny. There were 4 players in that squad on Saturday that are simply not good enough for league football. Evening from Fine Leg. Chris Gosling, with Walsall next Tuesday and the need to take something from it, I wouldn't be surprised to see players rested on Saturday. We'll come back to that. Do you think we should put a full team out at Peterborough, or do you think we should be thinking about Walsall on Tuesday night as much as we are Peterborough on Saturday in the FA Cup? 90 minutes, only 90 minutes, a possible penalty shootout from the 3rd round draw, of course. Robbie Stevenson, evening all. Hello, Paul and Mark. Watched the game on Saturday. Thought we were okay. Just can't wait to have the injured players back. I think we will be a completely different team. Evening from one of our flock regulars, Duncan Comrie, and from Karen Knight. Royston, people think these injured players will come straight back in. That won't happen. What are you wearing, sir? Says David Skinner. You have to be careful when you say that on message boards, this is Rob Bircher's match worn shirt. I've got it on for when Martin joins, because obviously this is the goalkeeping shirt from the time when Martin was here. Evening from James Moore and from Shane Walker, brackets Solent Magpie. Chris Gosling, don't want to get into comparisons, but this season's injury situation is far worse than last season. I agree, it's far worse, Chris. I'll counter you with Matty Palmer. He was out more or less after what first 2 months of last season. Andy Easom, echoing what Stell said at Crewe, when Didsey joined the action at half time, he made it just 2 players on the field who have scored for us this season. Is that right? I thought of that, yeah. Poor return. James Moore, on the bright side, if we hadn't produced so many attempts on goal, I think we would have grounds for complaints. We're in good shape for the shape we're in. Yeah, I'll just work that one out in a minute. Ian Cooksey, the worrying thing for me is that we are pinning a lot of hope and faith in players returning. We'll discuss that. I think that's a very valid point. Does everything in the garden become rosy when Jody Jones is back, Dan Crowley is back, Curtis Edwards is back, Grant is back? Maybe, maybe not. Evening from Richard Hawksworth, from Paul, not me. I heard a few people around me saying it's starting to get boring watching Notts, and they have a point. I don't think we're boring. I mean, sometimes when we keep the ball in our half for long periods, it can be, perhaps not to people's liking, but I don't think Saturday in any way, shape, or form was a boring game. Right, we're going to break away. Martin Allen's timekeeping is not the best, so I think we'll get him on because he obviously wants to watch his beloved Hammers against Newcastle on the telly later. Right, anything may happen in the next 15 minutes as we welcome Martin Allen to the show. Martin, as they say in Big Brother, please do not swear. You are live. How are we, my friend?
I'm flipping fine, thank you. And my timekeeping. Good evening, Mark. My timekeeping is good because you asked me to come on at 7:30, and where I've been brought up from, 7:30 means be ready at 20 past. So you're ahead of the game and not waiting and scrambling to try and get through on this. What's this called? A Zoom or something, isn't it?
The app we use is called StreamYard, Martin.
StreamYard, okay.
Don't ask me.
How are you both? All right?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
Good,
very
good,
well.
Good.
Stout was trying to remember, I don't know if you can, Martin, whether he ever played against you. We were both of a consensus that if he had, you would have undoubtedly kicked him.
It would have been when Martin dropped down the levels, that's for sure as well. I don't know if we ever crossed paths on the pitch, maybe at the back end of sort of, I don't know, mid-90s maybe.
What, when you were playing for Notts County?
No, Bradford. I think I'd have been, when we got promoted. We don't speak about it on there though, Martin, to be honest. Yeah, in the Championship. I don't know if you might have been at Portsmouth that 96, 97 season.
I know that you were a good player, a good striker, led the line, played through the middle, brought people into play.
You've been drinking already, Martin?
That's true. You're a good player.
Bless you. Bless you.
Forward.
Bless
good
you.
centre forward. Good player. Leader of the line. Good in the air.
Yeah. We're not here to talk about
good
me.
Player. Good player.
Cheers.
Hey,
Come on, I'm blushing.
What's this about you and Rivers, Martin? I've been reading that have you said that if West Ham win tonight against Newcastle, you're going to go for a little dip in the Thames tomorrow?
Mm.
Do you like going in cold river water?
Have you seen West Ham play?
Yeah. Have you seen what's in the Thames though?
No, it was a tongue-in-cheek comment this afternoon, and the West Ham fans, including myself, we're not really that hopeful of getting something out of this difficult trip to Newcastle. And West Ham haven't been playing very well, home or away, and there's a lot of supporters calling for a change in management. A lot of the players that have been bought in haven't played that well. So it's tricky testing times, and tongue in cheek this afternoon, I put, if West Ham win, I'll jump in the river. I hope they win. No,
And I know for when you're coming up, which we'll talk about now, one of the all-time great classic tales is of you taking a trip into the River Trent, isn't there, before the Forest League Cup game, which you will be regaling with us, and that was cold, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was cold. It was very early in the morning. Obviously, I wanted to do it before anybody saw, but we'll talk about that when we meet up next week, because it sounds absolutely crazy in the cold light of day now. But the psychological meaning of it and the reason I did it, there's a kind of an explanation, and you afterwards you'd probably go, oh right, okay, it does. It might be a bit mad, but it makes some sense.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point. And this is something that Stella and I will be talking with you about when you come up to Nottingham, because you carry a moniker, don't you? Mad Dog, and all the rest of it. But behind the things that you do, which seem very strange, there is, I think, to use a phrase, there is method in the madness, isn't there?
Well, yeah, there is. I don't know where it comes from. I don't sit at home with a pen and paper and work out a schedule or work out something that's going to happen. And with that swimming in the river thing, we can explain that again when we're up at this pub place that you've organised, and you'll have an understanding of it and a reasoning why I did it. It was spur of the moment stuff. It wasn't, as I say, it wasn't planned the first time I did it. And after that, I thought, well, I am going to do it. And we're not going to have any fear, and you're not going to show any fear, and you're going to have your shoulders back, and you are going to march out and fearless going into the Brentford in the River Thames in central London. I used to go in there and dive in at 5:30 in the morning, and the players, we used to video it, and then we used to show it to the players on the way to an away game. Well, I think we did it on the way to Southampton in the 5th round of the FA Cup, and they were in the Premier League. And as we were pulling into Southampton's ground, I was diving in a video on the team coach, and the players were laughing their heads off. And it was a great way to relax the team coach and everyone. We all jumped off the bus, all casual and fun, and rather than all stressed out that we were playing against the Premier League team. So it served its purpose.
Yeah, it's very good. And we look forward to sort of finding out a little bit the man behind the mask, so to speak. So it's Friday, December the 6th. It's at the Big Shed, Mad Dog in the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation, which is just round the corner from Meadow Lane. All Notts fans know it. Now, we've run a competition for everyone that's bought an advance ticket. Still got 11 days to go to the event, and so we put them into a draw, and we made that draw earlier today with the ticket promoters, and I have given you the name of the winner, and this will be for 2 people to come and meet you, have a meet and greet, get some photos, have a little chat with you before the gig starts at 7 p.m. And Martin, can you please reveal the name of the winner of this competition?
If I do, Paul, I've got to go back into my phone, and I hope I can get back onto
this just to build the suspense up even more.
I was going to say, they don't have this on the lottery programme, do they?
No.
Go on then.
Julie.
Julie, go on. Surname?
I think it was Hamshaw.
Nearly. Henshaw.
Henshaw.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a player that played for Notts County called Henshaw?
No, Hamshaw. That's why he got confused.
Matty Hamshaw.
Henshaw, Hamshaw, whoever you are, can't wait to meet you. So, hey, we remembered it.
So it's Julie Henshaw. Now, she's a regular on the show, and I'm really pleased she's won, because you are talking about a real Notts fan, Martin. I'm hoping that she will be able to bring her mother along, right? Which on the face of it might not sound that special, but when I tell you, a mum goes home and away, yeah, and she is 93 years old.
Wow.
Blimey,
Brilliant.
same age as you.
Yeah, same class at school.
Yeah. It's Paul's first girlfriend.
93. Calm down. 93 years old, and the lady goes home and away. That's not
Wow.
bad, is it?
That's amazing.
That's
Paul, did
not
you
bad.
fix it? 'Cause it all sounds a bit too
brilliant.
good to be true.
So you will be meeting Julie and her family on that night. Before we sign off, Martin, before we sign off, you've done a couple of videos for us, which are great, and so clearly this is a night for Notts fans, and quite a few people have been sort of said, "Oh, if we can't get, will you be like, doing broadcasting the show later following week?" So I've said, well, you're better off coming to the event, because the live event will probably last 2 to 2.5 hours. The edited PG highlights version will probably only be able we'll only be able to broadcast about 7.5 minutes of it. But you've already come out and said, haven't you, that all questions will be answered. Yeah, this is a no holds barred, proper. If you're easily offended, please don't come. And what I would also say, genuinely, Martin, to you, is that you kind of understand a footballer's a supporter's mentality, a supporter's understanding what it means to them better than just about any other professional footballer I know, because clearly as a professional footballer, it's your business, but you kind of get what it means to be a supporter and understand it and empathize from their point of view. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if that's your judgment, I suppose I do, obviously, because I've obviously been a player and my dad was a footballer and a manager. So I experienced management and coaching from quite a young age when I used to go around the country with him, with his team. So, yeah, I did have an understanding. My dad did bring me up. He did bring me up of those people that pay to watch you play. You make sure you do everything you can to give them value for money. And when I worked as a coach manager, I vowed that I would never, ever say the words or encourage the supporters, get behind the players and make it happen. I turned it round and I said to the players, you play and then they will shout and sing and respect your performance. I just see it the other way around. It's up to the players to get the fans going, not the fans to get the players going. And I maintain that now. When I hear managers saying, "Oh, this supporters' role is important," no, the players' role is important. You win your tackles, your headers, your races, play well, and then the fans will get behind you.
Martin,
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you ever so much. We'll let you prepare now for West Ham. Get your budgie smugglers out for tomorrow. We want to see the video of you in the Thames, right? If West Ham win.
I know. I do hope West Ham win, but I know that I walked my dog Dennis along there this morning, along by the river, and I was looking at it thinking, oh no, back in there again. Lovely to speak to you two.
Yeah, and you, Martin. See you in a week and a half.
Friday.
Yeah, nice
Take care,
to meet you,
Martin.
Mark.
Yeah, look after yourself.
Care.
See you
well
soon.
done to Julie Henshaw.
Henshaw.
Yeah, not Matty
Paul.
Hamshaw.
Paul, did you fix it that she won it?
I couldn't possibly comment.
To get a 93-year-old there, that's going to be fantastic. Can't wait to meet them.
All right. Take care, Martin.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go. I dread to think what's going to be going on that night. Oh dear! I mean,
I'm not sure 2.5 hours is going to be long enough, Paul.
If he tells some of the stories he's threatening to tell in his conversations with me, I need to have a lawyer present, I think, to protect my circle from future cases of libel and defamation.
Yeah, people got to sign a disclaimer when they come in. Yeah,
absolutely. No video. You can't video it yourselves, by the way, and smuggle it out and get him into trouble. It's Chatham House rules, as they say. Friday, December the 6th. Tickets are £11. Make sure you get them soon. They're selling very well. Congratulations to Julie Henshaw, who will get to meet and greet Martin beforehand. Right, let's get back to the message boards after the interlude. Athenian Pie, good evening all. Long time without being able to get you all live. He's coming up for a morning gym session, it says here. These lads couldn't buy a fortuitous toe against Newport. I think the gist of that is we didn't get a lot of luck. Matt Arnold's messaged me about something to do with Notts history. Resend it to me. I get a few messages. I'm not always great at replying to them. Apologies, Matt. David Skinner, good spot. That's not a bad forward line behind you with your shirts. Jatta, Stallard, and Jack Grealish. And of course, have you ever been bracketed together, Stal? Grealish and Stallard side by side.
Certainly not. I was more Tony Grealish than Jack Grealish. I think at the age I am. I wouldn't mind playing. I wouldn't mind playing with him. Good grief, yeah. Anybody like could deliver a ball like that, like he can, got the quality. Yeah. No, didn't play with him.
Before anyone asks, I believe it, yes, to be an actual Jack Grealish match-worn shirt. It's a bit like Lee Hughes, there's probably about 975 others in existence, but I do believe that to be an original one. So it is one of my better shirts, you might say. Wayne Wilkins, he's in the building. My eyes are going. It's either coffees or Coronas deep now, Paul. So he's obviously having a good time. Gasoline, going back to the original point, neither Team A nor Team B either way, though I won't be knocking our players on here. They need our positive support. Results will come, as will Jody, Curtis and Crowley. Linda Lou, it's really good to get a balanced and positive view. Thanks. We always try to be balanced. Two sides to every coin. And what we try not to do on this show is go the shock jock routine and make outlandish comments to try and provoke one side from the other. Sam Draper, I heard some boos at the end of the game on Saturday. That's absolute madness in my book. The players were trying hard. No, I don't think anyone can query the effort. No one can query the effort. Some days it doesn't always go for you. John H, we're hanging on in there. So when we get players back, looking forward to a second half of the season that's successful. Jurgen Halligan, happy with where we are. If we can stay there until January, when injured players come back, we'll be in with a good chance of automatic. Nathan's not overly worried. Bob H, I thought it was quite a good game, in fairness, as 0-0s go. Ian Cooksey, Newport had their bodies on their line. That's what we're just discussing. Absolutely. For themselves and their manager. And they are on an awful run at the moment. Jurgen Halligan, just querying something else. Dale Pikett, Wilfred Bonney's son came on for Newport on Saturday. I did wonder if that was a relation when I saw the surname. Notts had no end product. Simple. And this could bite us. 2 points dropped for me. Ian Hayward, for once we had a decent ref on Saturday. Crikey, that is a rare comment. Chris Gosling, it was a classic game like that Yeovil one in the National League where we needed an early goal. It had 0-0 written all over it from the 70th minute onwards. Shane Walker, don't forget this is Notts we're talking about. Keep the faith, we will be up there come May. Paul Huskisson, Newport keeper, had a blinder. Jurgen Halligan, stats from Newport's game: 7 shots on target and 20 off target. What else have we got that's worth reading out? Athenian Pie. Of course, Mad Dog lives to the rules of you are never early, only on time. Might want to watch the Hammers, but secretly he is a pie. Chris Gosling, as Martin only just started using Twitter. If not, I've only just discovered him. Very entertaining. He called me a weirdo. which was the highlight of the year. Yeah, and Martin's recently gone on Twitter, probably about a month, 2 months ago, Chris. He's good value. He's good value. Elvis Bott, hi from Portugal. Jurgen Halligan says there are 2 Julie Henshaws that are Notts fans. Right. Well, I've got the number and the address. So when they contact, well, I suspect only one of them's bought tickets. If both of them has, I've got their details pulled off from the ticket computer. So there you go. We'll get to the bottom of it. Kay, Sandy Lane, I wish, Paul. Tony Adams was on our flight. Hey, Kay, there's no such thing as a cheap holiday in Barbados. Ryanair don't fly there, do they, Stell?
They certainly don't. No, yeah. I'm just thinking about the guy who's called a weirdo on Twitter. That's a compliment on Twitter speak, isn't it? There's far more worse things going around there.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject, though, just as an aside, everyone knows my views on social media. There's a couple of German clubs that have recently pulled off of Twitter. They've suspended their Twitter account, say it's too toxic, conspiracy theories, it's just more hassle than it's worth. And they've completely now suspended their Twitter social media accounts. I think Werder Bremen are one of them. And there's a lot of debate about Blue Sky, which is kind of, if you like, a more moderate, respectful social media channel. And there's a few clubs, British clubs among them, going on to Blue Sky rather than Twitter. I joined it literally on Sunday, and I think it was a Matt Cutler or a Matt Curtis. We're doing well for getting names wrong tonight. And he's got like a little starter pack of 120 Notts fans on Blue Sky. So I signed up to that. And so there's a little group going on there. And I believe the question was asked about, Notts and Twitter on last week. And I do believe that Notts are, if you like, monitoring the situation about with regards to their Twitter account, because it is so abusive these days. It's absolutely ridiculous. It always amazes me, Stel. The team comes out, so the club published the team, right? And half of it, brilliant team, will win 6-0. Fantastic team. And the other half, what a joke, 2 goalies or 4 centre halves. Hey, we're going to get battered. And it's literally, before a ball has been kicked, that's just the team sheet being handed in.
Yeah.
Talk about polarized views,
But that's it. But that's the way it's always been, even before social media. Okay, people will be having these conversations in the pubs, in the kiosks, on the concourses. It's football. It's an emotive business. You've got to take it all with a pinch of salt: the good, the bad, the negative, the positive. Like I say, you've got to try and ride the roast in the middle and pick out or cherry pick what you want and leave the rest behind. But yeah, I mean, I saw that fans forum. I saw quite a large chunk of it, and I saw Nick answer about the Blue Sky. And I think it's like you said, they're monitoring it. I mean, I am the last person ever to be able to give any information about social media or anything like that. But I think the way I gathered from it, it was like, if it takes off, then the club will obviously have to explore and go down that route, maybe as well as Twitter, as Instagram, as Facebook, as I don't know where they are, I don't know what they're on, don't know what they're not on. I know I'm not on most of them. So yeah, but I think that's it. In any business, any sort of club, if the fans are going to be on there and there's going to be the numbers and need for it, then they'll entertain it.
Okay, right. Manager's hat, amateur, which is all of the flock and me, with you're the professional. So I would be interested in your view. So, it was John who sits behind me who picked up on this. I didn't see it straight away. So we got done at Crewe from one of our own corners when a bloke's head bombed down the pitch and scored. We had no covering defender. And I didn't necessarily notice this straight away, but no defender on the halfway line. And I noticed on Saturday, it was pointed out to me, that when we had a corner, all 10 outfield players went up to the opposition 18-yard box. Not one defender on the halfway line. And there were a couple of half chances, weren't there, on Saturday, where the ball was hit and they started to run after it, but didn't necessarily have a whippet to run from one end of the pitch. So, given that we conceded a goal in that manner last Saturday, were you surprised we carried on doing the same? What do you, as an ex-pro, think of this tactic? Because quite clearly, the players are doing this deliberately. They're told to do it, and this is the shape we need you for corners. What are your thoughts on it as a pro?
Yeah, no, I've no problem with it. No problem with it at all. That's obviously the way they want to do it. To go back to the Crew one, I would say that it was Sam Austin became the last man, didn't he? And the starting position for our corner would be, like I say, nobody's on the halfway line. You know, it's not gone are the days of, well, you know, we leave somebody on the halfway line, because generally they leave an opposition leave one up. They didn't. So then you can creep, then you can go 15, 20 yards inside. So the deepest Notts player was probably halfway inside the Crew half. And I don't know whether it was Sam Austin when the ball was taken, but as the sort of few seconds happened, it got cleared out. He was the furthest Notts man back. And obviously, with that, Alex Bass's starting position, he was up near the centre circle. His starting position was near the centre circle at Crewe. And we could see, because we're up in that big high stand at Crewe. The ball got cleared. He very, very nearly, he was split-second decision in football.
Yeah.
He very nearly made the decision, do you know what, I can go and get this. Even though the ball was 15 yards inside the Crewe half, he's thinking, I can go and get this. And split second thought, no, I'll drop backs. We've got covering bodies. And as it turned out, we didn't have covering bodies that had the legs of the lad who went through and scored. Now, part of that, you have to say, is... So the setup's wrong. The personnel have just got themselves in the wrong position. You know all about the strength of the opposition. You know about how hasty players can be. So you have to adjust your distances accordingly. And to get done like that, it's all right. So, well, the lad's a whippet. We know he's a whippet. He's not suddenly developed this as the game went on.
Exactly,
we know that, and you take your starting positions off that. So it's a poor goal to concede, right? Has Stuart made? He said he's not made any changes. They're still doing the same thing. I think he has made changes, because they're not in position. But George Abbott, on a couple of them times when Newport could have broke from corners, it was George Abbott who is. I've never seen them have a race or anything like that, but I would say he's faster than Sam Austin, covers the ground quicker than Sam Austin. He was the man that was almost the deepest man. So I'm saying Stuart Maynard has seen that, realised maybe Sam Austin isn't the man, because let's say you're not going to have Sam Austin in there attacking a header, are you, from attacking set piece? So it may well have worked out. He was ringing the box. He was the last man by default against Crewe. But I think Stuart Maynard's seen that, right, we can't have that happen again. And I think he changed it. So George Abbott was that man, basically. That man who, if they look to break, you've got the power, the pace to be able to get there and thwart it higher up the pitch. So I think he did make small changes. It wasn't in how they line up. It wasn't right, I'm going to stick two on the halfway line. It's not that. And I say it's an attacking sort of option to take, you know, and I think it should be applauded. He wouldn't do it, obviously, if they left two men on the halfway line. You obviously have to cover that. But I think he did make tweaks to it, not in the shape, but in the personnel, that maybe that gets not noticed all the time by fans, but that was something I noticed on Saturday.
Yeah, I just, until John behind me point, I just didn't pick up on it, and I did think, if I'm an opposition manager, you clock that, and I've got a really quick player, and we can grab hold of that ball from the corner, just hit it long, you know. I suppose, how much more of a benefit is it then, from your perspective, to have all 10 outfield players effectively crowding the box or on the edge of the box than 8 or 9?
Because just a sheer numbers game, isn't it? You've got more chance of retaining the ball in that final third, in and around the opposition penalty area. The chances of a team doing what Crewe did should be 1 in 100. You know, it shouldn't happen, but it did. You know, so we can't talk about it like it's too red, but we've got to make sure it doesn't happen again. But that's the reason, you know. And another thing I've noticed with Stuart, mate, you know, that didn't happen prior to this. Quite often, when we're defending corners, he leaves two players up on the halfway line, and it might be a Sam Austin or a Jody Jones or a Dan Crowley and a Jody Jones, two of the smaller players, and says, do you know what? Now we trust our defenders to win our headers. You know, we trust our players that are back there. The players with height, obviously, Jatta as a striker will go back and defend. David McGoldrick will go back and defend, but he's obviously looking at it and going, well, do you know what? At 5'6", you know, you two can go and occupy, because if you put two up, you've got to leave three back. You've got to leave at least three back, really. I know the modern day is to go for go man v man, but it would be a brave opponent that went man v man against Jody and Dan Crowley, for instance, or players like that. So I think he does try and take the attacking option out of these things. Again, it becomes a negative when you get caught, as we did at Crewe. But then he's not just gone, well, one of them things. He has made a personnel change. He's not thrown it out, going, oh, that don't work, or that's dangerous. He's gone, no, I tell you what, George Abbott's probably more dynamic, so he can play that deeper role, and he's just switched a little bit around like that. But I think it's the numbers game is purely, if you're not going to score direct from the corner, and we nearly did with Lewis McCarry in the second half, one that kissed the face of the crossbar. If you're not going to score with the first ball, then you want to keep, like I say, keep them penned in, basically. Make teams defend, because it's might not be the first ball, but the amount of times players will switch off, defenders will switch off, they'll lose their man when the second phase of play comes in. And if you can keep it, the ball's only come out 15 yards out of the penalty area, 2 passes wide, and the ball could be coming in your box again, then defenders, certainly the lower down, you go switch off. Oh, I've lost my man. Where's he gone? Whereas if you're back on the halfway line, they clear it. You're on the halfway line. They get a chance to come out, organise themselves as they're doing it, and then it's 5, 6, 7 passes before you're back around the penalty area. The opposition's got more times to get themselves organised and therefore pick up men properly. Again, it all sounds like it sounds good, doesn't it? But it didn't mean we ended up 0-0. But that's the theory of it. That is the reason for doing it. And you'd like to think over a 46 game season, we'll get our rewards from it.
Okay, that's good. It sparked a bit of a debate on the boards about corners this season. Gazali says, notice we're banging in a higher percentage of long corners compared to the short corner retention game we've played for the last 2 seasons. Luke spoke about the need to retain position. There's some talk about the return of one of our most missed players, Jody Jones, apparently in hospitality at the weekend. He said he was well on the road to recovery. Dale Pikett said his interview in hospitality that he was back on the grass from today. AD Clark, 2 of Notts' fastest players, Maka and the Man, have departed. Jatta has pace, but is brought back for defensive duties. Do we need a pacey striker in Jan? I'm sure we'll be talking about the transfer window shortly. Chris Gosling, would be great if we could get Jody back in time for Christmas. One thing, again, coach's hat, amateur. I noticed that we had, I think it was 5 players who were playing inverted on Saturday, and it kind of seems now not only do we have inverted wing backs, we have inverted midfielders and all sorts of things. I counted all the way down the left and 3 down the left, 2 down the right of players that were all inverted. Does that bother you at all or not, Stella? Is that just the modern game? And it's clearly something that Stuart is more comfortable playing players inverted rather than what you might consider to be their more conventional positions, right-sided players down the right, left-sided players down the left.
Yeah, I'm not bothered about it. No, it's like I say, the fact that it's got a word now, inverted. It's got a label, hasn't it? Inverted. It used to be just right footers playing on the left footers playing on the right, but now we have to have a label for things, and it makes it sound far more complicated than it actually is. Again, this was brought up at the fans forum. I think he answered this sort of question, didn't he, about and went through his rationale for it. Not that he's absolutely wedded to it, but horses for courses, and depending on the opposition, depending on the threats of the opposition, potential weaknesses of the opposition, whether you think by having a right footer on the right, being able to go down the line more predominantly is going to do you a favour. He won't be averse to doing it, but I think you're right. More often than not, he likes to play with inverted players. Like I say, right footers on the left footers on the right, inverted. Call them what you want, but again, it comes back to what we opened up the conversation with, and you look at Saturday, and I look at it and go, your 2 wing backs, and I'm using this because whoever it was that said about maybe pace up front. I've been saying we could do with some pace in the team. That's one thing I would like to see, but not necessarily up front. I'd like to see it in wide areas. And because of the way Notts play, I think the pace is probably better utilised there than as an out-and-out centre forward. But you look at Saturday, the starting wing backs, Nick Cerula and Sam Austin. And you could go through the team, and I know somebody said there were 4 players that probably wouldn't be starting if it wasn't for the injuries. And I think that's possibly right. So you've got to look at, okay, it's all right talking about inverted this or whatever. It's still, and Martin Allen, he alluded to it. It's still about the basics: win your battles, win your duels, win your individual battle, be better than your opponent. Doesn't matter whether you're right-footed, he's right-footed, left-footed, neither-footed, both-footed. It does not matter. Go and beat your opponent. And the reason why, and again, I'm not going to, the people that have said when Jody and Dan Crowley come back and everything isn't all rosy, then they're absolutely right, because it's going to take time to introduce them back in, and they're not going to be back up to full speed. But we're going to have more to choose from, and surely I think we'd all agree, slightly better, talented, creative players to choose from, which can only be a good thing. Doesn't mean to say we're going to then win every game between now and the end of the season, or then and the end of the season. But it's just about when you're getting them at attacking areas. Saturday's a great example. You want players who are full of confidence and belief, because at times to break a team down, you've got to put the ball at risk. I know we want to control games, and we do in large parts, but you've got to put the ball at risk the closer you get to the opponent's goal, whether that's threading a ball between 2 or 3 players, playing a ball into a tight area, receiving the ball in a tight area, holding defenders off, playing little one-touch, playing around the corners, whatever it is, you have to put the ball at risk at times. And the best time to do that is when you're banging form, full of confidence, full of belief, i.e., a Jody Jones who's had 18 months like he's had. He's not worried about giving the ball away. He's not worried about not beating his wing back or his fullback, because he knows he'll get the ball again and do it next time, and he'll do it the time after that. So it's almost like when you're in form, you lose that fear of doing something wrong. And now I go back, and I don't want to single people out, but you mentioned names with people. I know you didn't, Paul, but people will know the names of players that are in there and going, we can't say that they're playing with that same confidence to go, I'm going to play a risky ball. I'm not talking about a worldie like a 50-yard dive. I'm talking about risking it in a tight area. Or, do you know what? I don't feel like I'm a fixture in this team. I'll do the simple thing. And the simple thing is often sideways, and it's backwards, and there's nothing inherently wrong with it. But to break teams down and to win games, quite often, almost all the time, you have to risk the ball. You have to take a chance, play forward through the lines. And again, I go back, this is not a massive criticism. I'm nitpicking, but I think just that's the difference between why I say with a Dan Crowley, with a Jody Jones, when they're back, I think they've got that belief to go and always look for that forward pass, that cutting pass, or go and beat your man. I'll take the ball if I'm Dan Crowley, and I'll spin 360 degrees, 720 degrees to lose my man, because I believe I'll do it, and you can't expect people to just do the same things, but them two will make marks and will leave their mark on games, maybe more so than players that feel like, I wonder if I'm just in here until they're fit, but there's no sympathy for that. You've got to go out and make your mark. So you get a starting shirt. Now's your chance. So that any of them players who might be thinking like that, go and show people what you can do. Think to hell with it. You're in the final third. You can put the ball at risk at times. Of course, you've got to play how the coach wants you to within the team ethic. But David McGoldrick isn't going to think twice about it, is it? He knows he can be confident in everything he does. The career he's had, so he will do it, not a problem. And he's got that quality. But I think at the minute, when you've got your sort of star players out, but two of your main creative players out, it's very difficult to ask other players to come in and go, just do what Jody does, just do what Dan Crowley does. It's very difficult when you feel like maybe you haven't got that backing of the fans, that absolute belief of the fans. You're trying to win them over. So that's all I'm trying to convey. A very small bit, but a very small bit of how it's different with and without your main players, if you like.
Joe Crabtree says, great to see young Cisse getting minutes on Saturday. James Moore, can we club together and get Nick Cerula some of Stell's old shooting boots, please? He's got a great player, but his finishing is letting him down a tad at the moment. Ian Cooksey, I wasn't aware of this. On a slightly different subject, how is it that the Football League have managed to give us 6 away league games out of 9 from the beginning of November to the end of December? We have only lost 1 of them all season so far, so it's perhaps not quite as bad as it potentially sounds. Peterborough, FA Cup, Saturday. It's already been mentioned by some of the people. Do you rest a player or two, given Walsall is a top of the table clash, 2 of the top 4, or strongest team possible, Stel? What do you say?
Again, with a caveat to any injuries and knocks, strongest team. I don't think we've been playing Tuesday, Saturday, have we? We've not been. I don't think the players have been flogged. I know we've got injuries. I know you've got to be careful. So that's why I say about if anybody is carrying something or you feel anybody might be on the verge of breaking down, then you do have to be careful. But I think the modern game is so much about wrapping players in cotton wool. I think you're also, let's not forget, we can ask them to be resilient as well. When the backs are against the wall a little bit, when we've got injuries, it's right. There's a chance to get in an FA Cup 3rd round here, So let's go and give it everything and do that. And we'll do everything we can to aid your recovery, nutrition, recovery, ice baths, all that sort of stuff. And we'll have you ready. And it might be the same 11 that's needed for Tuesday in a tough game against Walsall. But as a player, that's what you should want. You should want to be involved in every single game. The players won't want to not be involved if that's not a double negative, but the players will want to be involved, is what I'm trying to say, in both games. It won't phase them. I don't think we've had a run of, Saturday, Tuesday for weeks and weeks. I don't think the players have been flogged to this stage of the season. So I think, do you know what? We go with, if it was me, strongest team possible Saturday, because we want to get in the FA Cup 3rd round and we want to get the confidence from beating a higher level team, and we want to take that into Tuesday at Walsall. So, yeah, for me, it would be the strongest team, with a slight caveat that if anyone's carrying knocks and niggles, then okay, maybe you do have an eye on Walsall if that's going to be possible. But no, strongest team for me.
Yeah, I mean, here on that, Stella. I mean, we are only 90 minutes away, and you're not telling me that. I have no idea when the FA Cup draw is. Sunday, probably Monday. But you get through and you get a brilliant draw, Premier League, whatever it is. You're not telling me that doesn't give a buzz to everybody connected with the football club ahead of the trip to Walsall. And like you say, we've not had too many 2-game-a-week scenarios at the minute. So what does everyone else think? Would you be playing the strongest team? Might you be resting 1 or 2? Jurgen Halligan says 4 away league games in December and only 2 at home. Ian Cooksey, time of year and price of travel seems a little unfair on the regular away fans. But when did the fans ever matter? He says, a tad, I suspect, sarcastically. James Moore, your cup of tea is half empty tonight, Ian, as opposed, of course, to half full. Dale Pike, here's where we're off to, Stel, before Christmas. Oh, dear me. Walsall, Salford, MK, Dons and Cheltenham away during December. And of course, Ian Cooksey counters James Moore. Yours is obviously half full, as in cup. Chris Gossing, I play the strongest team, but worry we might approach with caution. Again, towards the end of the show, let's just throw this one in, and this clearly is going to be a subject that I think we are going to keep coming back to. There is a view at the minute, Stel, that kind of hang in there, this set of fixtures, get some of the players back, have a good January transfer window, and we'll be fine. And I think there's also an element of when we get the injured players back, and I've seen quite a few, not worried about Saturday. When we get the injured players back, we'll definitely beat Newport. Same. Crew are rubbish. When we get the injured players back, we will definitely beat Crew. I I take on board the points you've said earlier. I think that's far too simplistic. I don't think there's probably a single team of the 24 clubs in League Two that aren't saying the same thing about a centre half or a goalkeeper or a winger or a goal scorer. For me, the head coach at the start of the season said he was pleased with the squad that he'd got, felt that there were 2 players each position. Yeah. And the whole point of having a decent squad is to absorb the challenges you get with injured players, isn't it?
Of course, yeah. I mean, injury is part and parcel of the game. That's why you have a squad. That's why you look to make it as deep as you feel you need, as deep as you feel you can go within the budget and get the relevant quality in it. And I think, like I said, there's no definites. Again, I'll go back to it. When we say about getting Jody and Dan and Connor Grant and Curtis Edwards back, there's no definites. That doesn't mean we're then a winning team, but I think it gives us a better chance to win games. I think that goes without saying. If you have more players available, more of I don't think anybody can argue that they're 2 of our more creative or most creative players. When they're back, that must give us a better chance of winning games. Doesn't mean we're going to win games. Of course it doesn't. But I think it gives us a better chance. So the squad players, everybody's a squad player, but the players that are getting a starting berth now, the challenge for them is to do well enough to go, well, when they are fit, they're not going to come straight back in the team because they've got to do it gradually from off the bench, obviously. And do you know what? It's not a charity case. Whoever it is, I mean, I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but if I'm in the team and if I was classed as a squad player at any point in my career, which I obviously was, if I was in the starting lineup, I didn't feel like, well, I tell you what, I'm just keeping this warm till he gets back from injury. I'm there to go and I want to perform so well that the manager can't leave me out. And that when whoever gets fit, he can find a different position for him, and he can find a different player to take out the team because I want my starting berth. I don't want to be sat on the bench or sat up in the stands watching, and that is the mentality everybody's got to have, and that's why we talk about competition for places. But that becomes even more fierce and even more in your face when everybody's available. When you see Dan Crowley and Jody Jones back on the training ground, Curtis Edwards, Connor Grant, Scott Robertson, you see them all on the training ground, then them training sessions, I imagine, will then just ramp up an extra 5% because everybody's thinking, hold on, here we go. Manager's got some decisions to make here. I don't want to be the one to miss out. And that's how it works. That is what competition for places does. It's not just about the 11 you see on the Saturday. It's what goes on Monday to Friday on the training ground in between. And I know they'll probably never admit it. No club will ever like to admit it. But when you've got everybody fit and firing and there is real competition for places, training sessions, in my experience, and I don't believe it's any different now, training sessions just ramp up an extra notch or 2.
Indeed. Gazza Lee, his cup is obviously overfloweth, as they say. The FA Cup can be the glue for the season's success. Hoping for a huge game at home in round 3, and then we re-sign Langstaff on loan. Yes, very much an optimist there, Gazza. There's a lot of this going about, still, isn't there? About Langstaff coming back on loan. I mean, Neil Harris has certainly got Millwall playing now. I mean, they're only a couple of points off the playoffs. I mean, look, I see no way on earth Maka comes back on loan. Do you see any set of circumstances in which he might come back to Notts on loan in January?
Not this January. No, I did fly. I went into the nest afterwards. I had a quick pint afterwards in the nest because it was an early finish on Saturday, and I was teasing and floating the idea of a Macaulay Langstaff back on loan with Paul Mullin leading the line for Notts after January. Mullin can't get a game at Wrexham, not scoring in League One, found his level, come back down. How about that for a Notts County forward line to take us up into League One potentially? I don't think either of them will be here.
Did you say you only had the 1 pint while you were floating?
Exactly. Yeah,
it sounds like a lot more than 1 pint.
Exactly.
That tolerance isn't very good.
That was it. That was before I'd even had a sip as well. But look, think people will start looking now. We've got games to go before then. We need to pick up points, but I think people with the injuries we've had, I think there's a little bit of extra focus now on the January window when it comes around, and the club will be doing their due diligence already on players. They'll have targets identified, I'm sure. And then I think it depends on where we're at with these injuries. You know, are they all going to be back or not, as to how active we're going to be in January? But it could be a very, very important transfer window.
Dimitri from Montenegro, he's clearly on the Jack Daniels. I remember the yellow shirt from the back in 2007. Wrong arm, over there. There you go. Yeah, David. Right, there you go. Well done, Dimitri. We go forward in the FA Cup, he says. Martin Blaney, well, he's not very happy. Don't think Crowley will play another game for Notts, and he will be gone in January. Oh, well, so he's not coming back. Then, according to you, Martin, we certainly hope that is not the case. I think we'll probably wrap it up now. I'm according to our posters, Port Vale are 1 up against Crewe, which would put them quite a few points clear if they were to carry on to win that. They certainly seem to be the form team of League Two at the moment, but it's not the league we're focusing on at the moment. It's the FA Cup. I still call it London Road from when I worked there, 1986, I think that was. No, 85 to 87. It's a long time ago. Will you be there, Stel?
Absolutely, I'll be there. Yeah, I just hope the pitch is better than it used to be in the back in the day. It used to be terrible, the London Road pitch. So after the rain and the snow that we've had over the weekend and last week, I don't know what condition it's going to be in.
Oh, and I tell you what, it's I'm not sure whether they've done the press box up. The stand in which you sit, it has not changed from when I used to work for the Peterborough Evening Telegraph in 1985. Right. Honestly, the wooden benches, the metal slats, it is literally going back to a time warp. But I did notice, Stel, you had a different position in a newly renovated press box on Saturday. All mod cons now. You're complaining it's too big now, aren't you?
So there's too much space. No, it's much better, much improved. Yeah, the club have done well for us. Yeah, so it was the most tight, cramped, thing at the start of the season, but an impromptu sort of media setup, wasn't it? Given the fact they wanted more corporate seats, so no, they've given us more space, far better now. So yeah, happier bunnies in the media.
Yeah, well done to the club's communications chief, Nick Richardson, for making Dave Bracegirdle and Stel happy bunnies in the press box. It's not easy. But anyway, off to Peterborough. Who's doing the commentary with you Saturday, Stel?
It's Adam Saturday.
Very good. So tune out for that. The rest of us, we will be there, hopefully in force on Saturday. Then, of course, we have got Walsall next Tuesday. We'll be back next Monday. Don't forget, if you've not bought your Martin Allen tickets, it will help us immensely if you can buy them in advance rather than just turning up on the night. The contact details are crossed on the little ticker tape on the bottom of the screen and are posted just about here, there, and everywhere. Let's see what we can get up to. Hopefully, we can get into the third round of the FA Cup, and we can all dream of Forest, Man United, you name it, hammer him down at Meadow Lane. That'll be a culture shock for him, won't it? But I think we are getting a tad ahead of ourselves. The small matter of Peterborough to come. Stel, thank you very much as always for tonight.
Cheers, Paul. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
And thank you to everyone for your participation. We look forward to seeing you next Monday. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.